Hello and good evening, and welcome to episode 20 of Fracking Nightmare. Well, the fracking nightmare is becoming even more of a nightmare, particularly for those who are dedicating themselves to the protection of this country's water, soil, and air. Tonight's program is undoubtedly going to contain some rather disturbing images. But rather than shy away or turn off your computer, I want you to look at them carefully and see what this country is becoming. This country is a shadow of what is being presented in the mainstream media. While the mainstream media in the UK waxes lyrical about despotic leaders elsewhere in the world, taking people's eyes off the ball of what's going on in this country. This first picture from earlier today shows the extreme, I think we get it on the screen there, the extremes of behaviour being deployed by the Greater Manchester Police. This is Vanda. It's not the first time that she has been targeted by the police. And it's not the first time that she has been physically assaulted by the police. And we'll be looking a little bit more of this as we go through the programme. A week ago, we were on the brink of seeing the Barton Moss protection community evicted from the verge alongside Barton Moss Road. I had hot-tailed it down the M6 and the M5 immediately after hearing Judge Michael Pelling rule that the camp should be evicted and the land returned to Peel Holdings. Judge Pelling agreed that if an appeal was to be sought, it had to be submitted to the Court of Appeal in London by noon the following day on the Tuesday, which meant that a lot of overnight work had to be done by the legal team representing the Barton Moss protection community. The appeal was submitted, and just a few minutes before the deadline of midday on Tuesday, the Court of Appeal ruled that there did indeed seem to be a case worthy of review. This seemed to raise the ire of the Greater Manchester Police. No doubt Peel Holdings and IGAS were frustrated, but the role of the police is surely to maintain proportionality. We all know that they are supposedly there to facilitate peaceful protest, but the reality is somewhat different. They are actually there, as they themselves admit in their own statements, that they are there to facilitate the IGAS convoys. So having been frustrated by the courts, it would seem that Peel Holdings, IGAS and Greater Manchester Police are working in collusion to brutalise those who either are camping at the Barton Moss site or the local people who come down to support the camp each and every day. Well, I was there on Thursday, and what I witnessed on Thursday was deeply disturbing. And we're going to be looking at some video of that a little later. Friday was a relatively calm day, but this morning, obviously, somebody had dished out the steroids to the people wearing the high-vis jackets, because what transpired today is unprecedented. I'm not exactly sure of the number of people that were arrested today right now. I've heard reports of 11 or 13, but I think that's one of the highest number of arrests in a single day. This next shot here of Vanda literally having her throat pushed up against the fence by TAU officer Thugs Are Us 12933. Thank goodness for the cameras. Imagine how these individuals would behave if the cameras weren't there. Or maybe they're playing up to the cameras. Maybe they're now posting on Facebook saying what an amazing day they've had, brutalizing the protection community. This next collage of photographs was published in the online Salford Star, an outstanding local indie media publication. Thanks to Steve Spy, the staff photographer at Salford Online, for these images. And here we can see Vanda, the bottom left-hand corner there, her head being forced into the ground. And then the two images on the right, where with an arm around her throat and being forced up against the fence, you can literally see her chin on the fence. This is policing a peaceful protest. Look at the look on this guy's face. This is the TAU officer administering the arrest, forcing Vanda's arms behind her back. Look at the sheer unadulterated aggression. And in one of the videos later that we're going to show at the end of the program, we will see a TAU officer on Friday completely losing it at a peaceful protest, swinging punches, having to be dragged off by his own officers. And the look on his face is one of absolute unadulterated aggression. The Greater Manchester Police leadership have lost control, if they ever had any. And they are demonstrating to the world that they have not the first clue about facilitating peaceful protest. What they do know how to do is to facilitate rampant corporatism. Every one of these officers may ultimately be culpable. If this industry goes ahead in this country, and this country suffers like the US, Canada and Australia are suffering after just a few years of this industry being unleashed beneath them, every one of these officers may have to face up to the fact that they have facilitated an agenda which will ultimately destroy this nation's ecology. The Salford Star today, this is the editor, Stephen Kingston, and he says, as a journalist, you try and remain neutral, but when you see totally violent and out of control policing, you have to speak up. I saw one of the arresting officers repeatedly punch Vanda in the stomach. I went around to the other side of the fence to which the police had her pinned, and I saw blood dripping from her face and absolute fear in her eyes. She was screaming while an officer had his hands around her neck. When Vanda was previously arrested, the road was sealed off and our reports had to rely on video footage and photographs. This I saw with my own eyes. The amazing thing is that officers did this in the full glare of the media, which was there to photograph Bez, the lead singer with Happy Mondays. It's almost like they are trying to send a message out there. If you come to a peaceful protest at Barton Moss, you can expect this treatment. Steve Speed, the Salford Star photographer, said, I was stood next to Vanda when it started. She turned to face the officer stood behind her and said, I've been doing this for years and I know exactly how far from you I need to stand. Not even close to probably what most of these officers have to deal with on a Friday and Saturday night in the Greater Manchester area. Steve continues, she then turned around and within seconds the officers pounced on her. The level of violence shown towards her was horrifying. At one point they were pushing her head into the ground and laughing at her. Now, in addition to pursuing the normal legal recourse, we are also looking at the opportunities afforded by common law. And the video footage will be carefully scanned and liens may be issued against those officers who have perpetrated in this atrocity. Now, let's remember that the UK is supposedly a first world nation, rapidly descending into third world authority. It's becoming a banana republic. One would like to think that it's limited to Greater Manchester, but time will tell. There's an image posted on a Facebook page today, which, by the way, Facebook are now censoring some of the photographs which show blood on Vander's face and blood on the sleeve of the arresting officer on the basis that they are offensive. Offensive to who? Offensive to the Greater Manchester Police? The observation, they laughed as they shot the Jews. Well, there is no doubt in my mind, looking at some of the faces of the TAU officers, if they were given the permission to don the riot suits, wield the batons, they would go at the task with glee. Most of these individuals are possibly not capable of doing the research that has been done by the protection community. They're there for a reason. That is why the protection community crosses the boundaries of the social, the political, the religious, and the philosophical spectrum. These are people who may not agree on very much else, but they do all agree on one thing. And the reason they agree on it is because they've done their research, they've looked at the effects of hydraulic fracturing in the US, in Canada, and in Australia, and what they see is devastation. They've looked at the academic reports that suggest a slowing down of the agenda until more information is available. These people are there with the interests of the British public at heart, and yet the Greater Manchester Police, its only response is to brutalise in support of a corporatist agenda. Greater Manchester Police, you should be absolutely ashamed. Peter Fahey, the Chief Constable, you will be held accountable, as will the Gold Commander, Chief Superintendent Mark Roberts, who continues to put out his rose-coloured glasses version of events without ever visiting the site. We're going to go into the first break with a video that I took last Thursday at Barton Moss, which was calmer than today, but only just. It's the morning of Thursday, 13th of March, 2014. What you're about to see is an example of the most aggressive, the most outrageous policing that we've seen here at Barton Moss ever since this campaign started on November the 26th last year. It's increasingly evident that Peel Holdings, iGas and Greater Manchester Police are frustrated that the community protection camp is still here. Peel Holdings and iGas and probably the police clearly believed that when they first presented the camp with eviction papers that it would simply be a rubber stamping process. Yet we've been through the hearing in Manchester. The case is now at the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal judges have ruled that there is indeed a case potentially to hear. What we have witnessed and what you are going to see in this short video is aggression driven by outrageous levels of testosterone and maybe one or two steroids thrown into the equation. 2 days ago, peaceful protest was outlawed in the Victorian state of Australia. Unless the British people recognise that corporatism is rampant in this country and exercise their existing right to bring about change, in a few short years we may be in the same situation as the people in the Victorian state of Australia.
It's a sterile area for your welfare.
For my welfare?
To let you through.
For my welfare?
Yeah.
You know it's not my
Yours
welfare.
and mine.
You know it's not your welfare.
Get
You're not going to get run over.
Can we just get this line out so we'll get this fella through?
Can you get your hands off me right now?
Assault,
Get your
out of the
hands
way.
off. You are assaulting me. You know that as well. So this is Sergeant 13710
13710.
assaulting a member of the
What's the
press,
one?
recording the events here at Barton Moss.
Trying to intimidate you, fella. Mr. Craig, pushing through.
I'm trying to.
Through the side. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to assist you. This side. Come on, Mr. Craig. I've been really lenient, sir. Please, just there for me, please. To the side of the officers, you can walk alongside, not behind them. Thank you.
Come with me!
Steady on! Somebody will get hurt! Steady on!
Who got pulled? Let's see anyone get pulled. They just pushed.
I'm next. He's just told me I'm next.
Okay, this is completely insane. This is out of control now. This is new officers on the line, new blood, no empathy. This officer here, this is 14017.
Keep moving. Say.
Totally lost the plot, out of control. 14017.
You push it forward.
Sorry, mate.
How do you expect you got this break all our phones? But you want to be shown on live stream. People do expect you as a police forward. Thank you.
He's got a camera on my back.
There, also in the front line. Moving forward, thank you. Keep moving forward, 3825. Good morning. Good morning. Keep moving forward, thank you.
Morning, Ian. Morning.
Morning, Kirsty.
Do you not
Lovely
wonder why
morning in the
nobody
English
respects
countryside, isn't it?
Really?
when you act like this? And you don't care.
There's obstructions on the left. There's obstructions on the left. Fucking hell.
It's not, you cannot go any faster. Stop pushing him, you bully.
Keep moving forward, sir, you're leaning backwards. Get your hands off me! Right now! Yeah, out of control! Out of control policing! Totally out of control! This is unbelievable! This is the most outrageous, aggressive policing we've ever seen here at Barton. Keep going. These guys, and this line, 14017, you're out of control. The sergeant is totally out of control. These are animals. These clearly. I know. Well, okay, we are reaching the point of the corporatist police state. They're not getting their way in the courts. So what we're seeing is the most incredible aggression. Out of control, testosterone policing. Probably 12666. How appropriate. Well, officer 12666. Were you carefully selected for that number?
On YouTube. He just trampled a human being on YouTube.
He fell over.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
You okay? Do you want to step out? I don't want to step out.
You don't want to step out?
Welcome, where do we want us to step to? Where do you want us to step to? I don't know. Not you, it's talking to him, not you. Don't touch me.
Here we go. Thugs are us on the front line. This is. Here we go.
On me! On me!
So here we have the martial arts instructors. Fresh from their breakfast for steroids. This is an insight into British corporatist policing of the highest order.
Keep moving, thank you! How can you turn up and
Trumple's an old man.
We're talking.
You're going to do this to good people. People that care!
No,
What do you care about? Keep moving, please! What do you care about? Keep going, thank you!
Stop thumping me, Slack. Stop thumping me.
Keep moving, thank you! I'm moving! CK40! What's your dressing? CK40! Come on!
Every single one of these is culpable. Unbelievable.
That's the worst policing I've ever seen ever in my life.
If anyone was ever in any doubt that it's iGas Private Army, that should dispel the myth. This is not British policing, it's not balanced policing.
It's not protecting people. It's just unbelievable. I just don't even know how to describe it. It's just heartbreaking. What are you supposed to do with these people? How can you have a protest, a good, honest, peaceful protest, and be treated like animals? Because that's what we're being treated like. This morning, I wouldn't treat a fucking animal like I've been treated this morning.
Introducing the magazine for free thinkers. 100 pages of high quality colour print. Packed with information the mainstream media will never tell you. Published quarterly, covering a range of subjects including politics, history, science and technology. Uncensored magazine. Think for yourself. Back issues also available on CD-ROM in PDF format. To subscribe, visit worldwideweb.uncensoredmag.co.uk or call us on 0207 558 8869. Introducing the magazine for free thinkers.
Oh, sorry about the slight technical glitch there. That's live TV for you. Well, if you thought it couldn't get any worse than that, just wait until the end of the show and we'll see what happened on the walk out. Well, I'm sure that if you're a resident of Manchester, you'll be hanging your head. This is the level of policing that has descended upon Barton Moss. And the reality is that the legal process is still going through. The police have no part in this process. The Barton Moss protection community has been there over 120 days. Written submissions have to be before the Court of Appeal on March the 19th. Oh, sorry, on March the 26th even, March the 26th. And after that date, a hearing will be set. So consequently, the Barton Moss protection community is certainly going to have a presence on Barton Moss until the middle of April, by which time there's a very good possibility, if you believe the iGas leadership, that the rig will have done what it was put there to do and they will be moving off site. Well, let's see how things unfold. But there is absolutely no excuse whatsoever for the police to behave in this way. Chief Superintendent Mark Roberts, you are the Gold Commander. You have a responsibility to get your officers in check. They are out of control. And as we'll see later on in the program, one of them completely loses it. And if an officer cannot control himself at a peaceful protest, what is he doing on the streets? You know, the Greater Manchester Police are clearly trying to incite a reaction amongst the protection community. That will not happen. The protection community knows exactly what it's doing in terms of raising awareness about this abomination right across the country. Last week I gave 3 talks, 3 public events, one in Singleton on the Fylde, one in Walkden in Greater Manchester, and one in Ammanford, South Wales. In South Wales, we had 3 county councillors and an MP in the audience. And the reality is that awareness of this is expanding on a phenomenal rate. David Cameron, of course, here he is, the apologist in iGas coveralls, announcing that he would give 100% of the business rates to local authorities if they embrace the unconventional gas industry in their community. This, of course, on top of the £100,000 bribe already put on the table. So, budget day in a couple of days. How much more are you going to throw at this industry, Mr. Cameron? How much is Mr. Osborne going to concede as you attempt to unleash this chemical warfare beneath this densely populated island? Well, the only good news is that the iGas stock price is moving in the right direction. We can see this outrageous peak here. This was the announcement that Total were buying into 2 petroleum exploration development licenses jointly owned by iGas and Dart Energy in the east of England. That was the Friday afternoon. This was the Monday announcement that 100% of business rates would be passed on to the local authorities. And ever since then, it's been the slippery slope. Not right back yet to the level earlier in the year, but getting in that direction. Now, I have no desire to see iGas or any other company collapse or go into insolvency. But I do have a desire for them to get out of the unconventional gas industry. So let's see how things unfold. The one thing that I am gratified about is that the investor removal team on the right of your screen there is certainly continuing in the vein in which it set out last November, and Sure Group are having to keep their bailiffs in check. And hopefully that day won't arise, of course, because as has always been stated, the Barton Moss protection community will leave that site the moment that iGas moves its last piece of kit off of the Barton Moss pad. Now, we have Bear on the line. So, Bear, have you been following events at Barton Moss over the last few days?
I have, Ian, yes, with horror, to be honest, with most of the videos and the pictures that are coming out about what's the standard and quality of policing down there.
And you, of course, yourself were subjected to the GMP hospitality. I think that when you came down to Barton Moss, you lasted, 4 minutes before you got arrested?
Yeah, I've been there overnight, but literally my first time on the line, my first time on that protest, and that was it. As soon as I showed any form of, I suppose, resistance to the police's perceived authority, that was it. They snatched me straight away.
Well, you know, it's very clear that the Greater Manchester Police are basically trying to clear the camp one way or another. They can't do it through the courts, so now they're going to do it through sheer physical brute force. But in reality, of course, it's going to backfire because these videos have gone global. And of course, you won't expect to see very much of a report of this on the BBC, primarily because Peel Holdings are their landlords in Manchester. But you'll see it on the independent media. But it's very sad, very sad. I must confess that this is a very, very different country to that which I believed I lived in sort of a decade ago.
I completely agree with that, Ian. I mean, from my point of view, I've worked in the security industry for 10 years, even with my geological background. And that picture where the police officer has Vanda on the floor, I've never seen a look of maniacal joy at causing another human being pain like that. And I've had to deal with some very aggressive individuals. And I will also state as well, I've taken down people who have had knives, guns, and tasers. And never, ever in my 10 years have I ever taken anybody as violently down as they took down Vanda, one woman with 3 police officers. I'm disgusted personally, I really am.
Well, it's been, I regret to say, a long time coming. I mean, one can see it in the eyes of some of these individuals. I mean, they are literally just waiting for the opportunity to go for broke. And of course, they don't need to put the riot gear on there because, you know, I mean, we'll see in the video a little bit later, Ann Power, who is often not able to get there for the walk-in, but she's pretty much always there for escorting the trucks out. And we'll see how Ann was treated and Ann's reaction to the walk out on that day.
Oh, I look forward to seeing Ann's reaction.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ann is a true warrior, and of course, you know, she doesn't let a high-vis yellow jacket intimidate her in any way, shape, or form. You know, just before we get on to your topic for the night, Bear, I just want to make one other observation. That is, in Victoria, in the Australian state of Victoria, last week, protest was effectively outlawed. And one of the perceived primary reasons for this is because the unconventional gas industry is looking to effectively move south, come down through Queensland and New South Wales and down into Victoria. And anyway, so the House legislature has effectively ruled that they can declare any kind of protest illegal, and the police can therefore arrest you for trespass. And, you know, don't think it's not coming here, because what happens in New Zealand, Australia and Canada is often a sort of an exploratory move to gauge reaction before it actually finds its way to the UK.
On that point, Ian, I'd say that it's actually already happened. The Anti-Social Behaviour Crime and Policing Bill has just gone through and gained royal assent as an actual bill. It's in force now, and essentially that bill can give police powers to completely blanket ban anybody from a public area if they are deemed to have the potential to cause nuisance or annoyance. So suddenly the police in this country have been granted powers where anybody they deem to be annoying can be removed from a public area, banned and imprisoned.
So anyone who is in any doubt that we are fast tracking down to the path of a corporate police state, well, Barton Moss is very much the front line. I have to say, Bear, just before we talk about contamination, there's a very different situation in Cheshire. We were down at Farndon. I took a scenic drive, having driven nearly 2,000 miles last week, primarily on the M6 and the M5. I took the scenic route to Farndon, and what a beautiful, beautiful journey that was. And of course the rig at Farndon, unfortunately, and this was natural justice. I took this about 5 o'clock in the evening as this black cloud came across and provided the backdrop behind the rig at Farndon. But this is Inspector Hill, Richard Hill, no relation to Chief Inspector Chris Hill, who is the bronze commander at Barton Moss. This is Inspector Richard Hill, who's going to be the primary point of contact at Farndon. I think it's going to be a bit of a shorter campaign at Farndon. There was a turnout of some 60-odd people there. So here we see, this is Inspector Hill in discussion as some of the protectors started to establish their presence there. In fact, the Geodome got erected at Farndon at the weekend. So that's the third location that the Geodome has been in its short life. Balcombe, Barton Moss and now at Farndon. And you'll be pleased to know that the day did finish with a bit of a flourish, and mysteriously a chain and padlock was put around the gates, and as you can see, taped up there, and that remained in place until pretty much everybody had gone home. So Farndon is the next location. This is Dart Energy. So we have iGas and Dart Energy in the north of England, and so anybody who lives in the Chester, Wrexham, Dee Valley area, then if you're at a loose end, get yourself along to the rig site at Farndon and join the fun and the frolics there. I have a sense that it will be somewhat more civilised than Barton Moss. But nonetheless, if you're in the Greater Manchester area and you want to protect the freedom to protest, to peaceful protest, then go down to Barton Moss and join the community there. Now, Bear, so you're now fully recovered again?
I am, yes. Well, no, that was the week. That was that
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
It was family commitments this time.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, real life getting in the way of the activism.
Yeah, I know how that goes, man.
Yeah. So yeah, this week I'm continuing further to what I discussed last week about the Duke study, because what I'm really waiting for with bated breath, literally, is the EPA, which is the US Environmental Protection Agency. They're going to be publishing at some point this year, and I really mean at some point, because as far as I can tell it's been delayed now, is a groundwater study looking into the potentials of contamination from hydraulic fracturing and groundwater, public groundwater. Now, I was, as I say, this is the first study, the major study that they've been commissioned by the US government to do. I was suddenly wondering, I mean, I find it very strange that there's not been any other studies that have been done before. So as usual, I started digging, and I found out some interesting little, I couldn't get any scientific documents, unfortunately, because strangely, it's very hard to get any EPA scientific data on the internet. But I did find news stories, which I did verify with other news agencies to try and build up a picture. And I'll read out what I found. Now, it was in July 2013, the Los Angeles Times got hold of an internal Environmental Protection Agency PowerPoint presentation about the water quality near Dimmock in Pennsylvania. Now, Dimmock is relevant to the Duke study because that was also another area where they studied for methane contamination, and they did find evidence of methane contamination where it was close to fracking.
Well, Dimmock was the town that was promised that it would actually be linked into the public water supply system, which was located some 12 miles away because of the level of contamination. But I regret to tell you that eventually that project got cancelled.
Well, that doesn't surprise me considering what I found here, because basically as the investigation went on in Dimmock, the EPA decided that the water supply was completely fine, there was no contamination, but at the same time, and this is from the EPA in Washington, so the central authority, the local office, the Mid-Atlantic EPA office, the staff there were saying that they needed to continue sampling because they didn't understand what was going on. And so basically, this is an example of the EPA picking results, as you said before, Ian, about the industry picking results. Well, this is the government agency that's meant to be the shield to protect us from this. They're doing the same thing here. And it's not the only time as well. There's evidence as well in March 2012, they closed an investigation on methane in Parker County in Texas. And in June 2012, they dropped a study of possible contamination of drinking water in Pavilion in Wyoming. And this is despite earlier findings that were verified of carcinogens, hydrocarbons, and other contaminants in the water. So, this is a case of 3 times the EPA has had the opportunity and has actually been carrying out scientific study, but every time has just stepped away, obviously probably with direction from higher up the food chain in the corporate world, from somebody in the upper levels, possibly in Halliburton or somewhere like that.
This is very similar to what we saw here in the UK last year, when I think it was Southeast Water actually wrote to the Environment Agency asking about the issue of contamination and also water usage, and central government told the Environment Agency not to reply until such time as it had drafted an appropriate response.
It's a classic example, Ian, of the blind leading the blind in this case. Is the industry is going full on with government mandate and government support, but there just isn't the scientific data there to be able to say yes or no either way of the equation. And so as a result, when people are asking for perfectly valid information that anybody would think with common sense would be there, it never is. It's completely lacking. I mean, like one of the other studies that I was looking into here, this is another interesting one because this was done by Environmental Protection Agency officers, but they couldn't get the EPA to actually authorize them to do it, so they had to do it on their own time in the weekend and on the evenings, but still using the EPA labs. And this was done by, as I say, University of Texas by Professor B. Fontenot and a gentleman called Dr. I hope I pronounced this right, Shug, in 2013. Now, this study was doing the similar thing to the Duke study, and this study actually references the Duke study because it itself says it is the only other comparable study looking into the contamination of groundwater that really has been done in the US. So in essence, there's only 2 studies in the United States, but that have looked, independent studies that have looked into groundwater contamination that have been recognized by the, the academic authority.
Bear, let me just stop you there, because while we're talking about groundwater contamination in the US, I just want to play, I'm actually going to use it as an opportunity to take a sort of a short break, so we'll play it as a commercial. But this is actually a look at what has been happening in the Trans-American pipeline that's been built to ship the tar sands product down to the Gulf of Mexico. So take a look at this and look at the contamination here, and then perhaps it helps to put in perspective some of the reasons why it is that the Environment Agency, the Environment Protection Agency in the US, shuts down these studies before they even start.
Okay.
I keep hearing that all the oil from the Keystone XL is going to China.
They want to add value to that raw crude oil, ship that overseas, and then continue to import higher-priced oil from the Middle East that we still need.
How will the Keystone XL pipeline benefit the United States?
TransCanada has been
an environmental disaster
for years.
This next story may be cause for concern.
Another pipeline,
TransCanada pipeline explosion.
Building the pipeline would inject
3.1 million gallons of hazardous liquids per year
through the community.
They're going to be spilling a hell of a lot of oil.
Parts of this town are still covered in a thick, toxic sludge.
A spill of this toxic sludge would be an economic and environmental disaster.
The black sludge spilled onto the streets.
A major cleanup is now underway.
Why are there so many people opposed to this pipeline?
The oil from Keystone XL will go directly
down this waterway.
And in so doing, it runs through
the largest source of fresh water in the United States.
There's the maintenance type jobs that go with it.
Inadequate field investigation, inadequate inspection.
Like any other responsible business.
TransCanada at fault.
It shut down the TransCanada pipeline Thursday because of safety issues.
TransCanada knew about the problems with the pipeline, but didn't do enough to prevent the explosion.
The reason why we've built the pipeline is
strictly for private gain.
It's an investment that we make money with. Keystone XL means
forcing families from their homes.
That's the way we do business.
Thick, hazardous slime covers yards and streets in this subdivision.
At the end of the day, it's the people affected who pick up the slack.
People living in the communities where a pipeline is located.
Collateral damage in the way of big oil.
People are still suffering with the long-term effects caused by breathing toxins on a daily basis.
I mean, look.
Residents couldn't believe what they were seeing.
That is a pipeline that is busted.
These pipelines are just too dangerous for the environment.
It is not crude oil. It is not in the strategic interest of America to even have this crap coming down here.
There's something wrong with the pipeline system.
Take, for example,
the second incident this week where Canadian crude has spilled in the United States.
TransCanada's first Keystone line in the U.S. spilled at least a dozen times just in its first year of operation.
Where is the public interest in this?
It doesn't make sense.
Why did this happen? This is not all right.
They've lied, they've misrepresented this entire project.
Oil giants get away with violations like that all too often.
All we have to do is pay more.
both in terms of money at the gas pump and cost to the environment.
Which is why people across the Midwest are fighting to stop the pipeline.
That's the pipeline carrying the tar sands crude right across the heart of the Midwest, which has had a phenomenal amount of failures. Not being reported, of course, in the mainstream media here in the UK or even in the US. The whole idea is to keep it as low profile as possible. Now, from your reaction as you were watching that, Bear, I think you probably hadn't seen that before.
No, I hadn't. I've seen, obviously, the devastation on the ground where they're extracting the tar sands, but that was gobsmacking. It really was. I mean, I've seen some environmental disasters, but this is a pipeline going through the Midwest of America. This is the breadbasket of the USA. You know, that this potentially, if this goes, and I think there was that little bit of footage that showed it over the Ogala Aquifer.
Exactly.
I mean, if something like that cracks, I mean, the potential ramifications, they could destroy the entire agricultural industry in the Midwest. I mean, it's horrifying. It really is, Ian.
So they've pretty much nailed the Gulf of Mexico, and I mean, obviously, if you eat seafood in the US, you're playing Russian roulette, because it's either contaminated with hydrocarbons from the Gulf or radioactivity from Fukushima, if it's from the Pacific. So, I mean, unless you're getting something from the North Atlantic, then you know, the seafood's got to be pretty toxic. And like you say, I mean, we already know that the vast majority of food grown in the US is genetically modified. Well, what are they going to do? Develop some kind of genetically modified seed that grows in oil? I mean, it's unbelievable, huh?
Well, it's this philosophy. I mean, I was once having a discussion with somebody about the bees dying off, and his answer was, well, necessity is the mother of all invention. And I'm just sort of, you have that much blind faith in technology that you believe. I mean, for me, technology has almost become a religion to many people, that they just automatically assume that disaster looms, press button, and out will pop the new technological pellet that will save society.
Disaster capitalism, and in fact, totally. Ironically, that's actually what we were talking about earlier this evening on Humanity versus Insanity. You know, in reality, of course, somebody somewhere always gains from a disaster, and of course that wealth is moving or migrating to a smaller and smaller number of people.
Totally. I mean, we live in an age where, as well, that I don't think ever before that wealth has been concentrated, well, so much wealth has been concentrated in the hands of so few, with so far-reaching power. I think a lot of people haven't switched on to the way the world has changed. It really is a much smaller world than it was 20 years ago. The digital revolution has heralded that, and it's allowing for these corporations to span further and have more involvement around the world.
So with the potential contamination of the global water supply, then that cabal effectively will control the fundamental of life.
In essence, I mean, it's from that. I think the last study I was talking about with water contamination from the British Environment Agency, talking about how water will likely become a resource in the future. This seems to be a way that government institutions and corporations are viewing it, whatever we think as usual, and they're heading further and further down this, because once you have control of things like water, once water becomes something that is an owned product, then you have a true stranglehold over society, because is an essential of life. And it is, I think this is one of the most worrying trends. You know, it's been going on for a long time, but we literally are moving into almost like an end game here, where they don't care what they're doing, they don't care if we're watching, they don't care about public opinion, they're just going to push it through to their own ends, no matter what anybody else thinks.
Well, the problem is that they're working on the basis that the vast majority of people are effectively so dumbed down and kept in check through the usual bread and circuses, you know, just to keep enough food on the table to keep them fed. And if they can't keep enough food on the table, then demonize them in the tabloid media, because they're a parasite to society. I mean, it's a mentality that actually should defy human logic. But you know, unfortunately, instead of recognizing that you know, these are the people that need support, need our help, everyone wants to turn away because they know damn well that if they take their nose off the proverbial grindstone, then that could be them.
No, that's so true, Ian. It's a case of every dictatorship and every junta from Nero to Napoleon, I suppose, or Nero to Cameron. I don't want to say it, but I'm possibly getting to that level. Is that they always find the weakest sect of society, someone that can be easily demonized. Even Himmler, when queried about why did you attack the Jews, he said we could have easily used freckled people. It just needed to be somebody that people already hated. And at the end of the day, that's what they're doing. They demonize, they push these people, they marginalize them, they turn them into a media story, something to, I mean, like with Benefit Street is a perfect example. And this is what they're doing there, that essentially that anybody who cannot proform to our society is supposedly as well. I find it very strange if we live in a democratic society, how so much of the way we live is defined that we have to live in a specific way in accordance. And it really, I mean, it gets me angry, but it just gives me more passion to put more energy into these, because if we as a people don't educate ourselves and rise up to make sure that we can live in a better world, then this world is never going to get better.
Exactly. I mean, the onus is on this generation and the coming generation. I mean, the generation that's coming up behind me. I mean, like never before. Because I have a sense that we're probably not going to see the change we need to see in my lifetime necessarily. But hopefully in the next generation, then there will be enough people who recognise that the corporatocracy is not going to take care of their kids, and they need to start thinking about the legacy that they're going to leave their kids.
Oh, totally. And I mean, it's something that, I mean, this is the one thing from the video you showed earlier. So many people are asking the GMP and the TAU, what are your children or your grandchildren going to think? And I think this is something that I wish more people would switch on, that, that your actions today don't just affect your life, they affect every generation to come from this planet. And especially considering what we're messing around with now, the technologies we're using, the disasters that we're putting in place, through our mismanagement and our lack of care. The only thing that really buoys me up in many ways is the fact that there are so many people who are involved in this movement. It's growing so rapidly, showing the Farndon camp, and there's events like there's the Fracked Future Carnival on I think it's this Wednesday down in London, where people are meeting at 12:30 in Knightsbridge. There's loads of events like that, and that's a really big one, because there's a big conference happening this week with all the major heads of Quadrilla and iGas and all the shale gas representatives are meeting. It's something that's topical and it's something that's going on, and we've just got to get out there and keep fighting this fight.
Absolutely. And just talking of events, in the Farndon area, there's a few events on Wednesday at the War Memorial Hall in Farndon at 7:30. This is a meeting that's been put together by Frack Free Farndon and Holt. And then on Tuesday at the Kenyon Hall in Holt. And so, by the way, I have a word of counsel for the frack-free groups. When you're organising an event, maybe try and come up with a way of promoting the event without using the words frack-free, because it does rather give the game away of where you're coming from. And the danger is that you just end up sort of reaching out to the choir. The challenge, of course, is to bring people in to these events who are undecided, or even think that fracking is a good idea because they've swallowed all of the lamestream media PR rubbish. So, the challenge is obviously to reach out to the wider community rather than those who are already on board. So,
I agree completely, Ian. Yeah.
But we'll get there. We'll get there. I mean, this is the fastest growing environmental movement in this country, and primarily because later this month, potentially 64% of the country will be up for grabs. The debt consultation ends on March 28th. And so with 64% of the country potentially up for grabs, that's a lot of people that might find a Barton Moss or a Farndon or a Balcombe literally just down the road from them. And, you know, as we've seen in previous programs, the water contamination issue, and as you've continued to highlight for us, Bear, is one that, my God, we should be seriously concerned about.
Oh, totally. I mean, the studies I've been looking at, they're showing evidence of arsenic, cadmium and strontium in the groundwaters. Now, these are chemicals that are used in fracking, but they're also chemicals that are present in the local aquifers. And, you know, this is just an example of, you know, these are the levels that they found. They're directly linked to fracking. That it's been proved they're directly linked to fracking. How they're linked to fracking, they don't know. But these are water levels that are with toxic levels of pollutants in there. You know, it's a continual theme. No matter where fracking has been, there is pollutants. There is a detriment in the quality of life for the people there. And I still cannot understand how this country, how this government are ever going to get away with this, and how the Tories ever think they're going to get back in if they push this through.
Well, unfortunately, at the moment, all the parties have a pro-fracking agenda. The Green Party are the only party that are against hydraulic fracturing or against unconventional oil and gas exploration or exploitation. But the downside or the danger is that all the local MPs are telling their constituents that they are against hydraulic fracking in their constituency, but they still support the overall agenda. And that's how they think they're going to get re-elected. So hopefully, you know, with a 15 months or so to go before the next election, or 14 months now, 14 months to go before the next election, I mean, hopefully by that time, you know, there will be sufficient realization that any party that supports hydraulic fracturing will be political suicide. And, you know, whether it's independents that stand or, you know, Green MPs that stand, whatever, then, you know, one way or another, we have to obviously prevent this abomination. Now, Bear, unfortunately, we have to leave for the evening. We're going to overrun a little bit. But any final words for tonight?
Just thank you once again, Ian, for having me on the show, and I'll keep updating peeps out there with more information as and when I get it. I'm close to getting my little Facebook page put up with all my data as well, and I'm going to continue my studies into groundwater and hopefully have some more information for you next week. But once again, thank you, Ian.
Oh, thank you, Bear. You're an absolute asset, and I really appreciate your contribution. And of course, you just reminded me as well, I should mention that there is a Fracking Nightmare Facebook page. So if you want to stay on top of what's going on, I mean, there are multiple anti-fracking Facebook pages. Join them all, spread the word, but also spread the word to other communities, people that maybe need to be brought up to speed on this abomination. Now, we're going to play out this evening with the video footage, or a edited part of the video footage from the walk out last Thursday. The last part of the video has a soundtrack. There's a soundtrack from the wonderful Darren Nesbitt when he was performing at Farndon on Sunday, and I think it's, as you'll see, it's a very appropriate soundtrack to the closing piece of video footage that you're about to see. Now, it's very disturbing. It's very disturbing to see a serving police officer lose control in the way that this police officer did. Unfortunately, I was perhaps a little bit too close to the melee, and I didn't catch on camera the officer actually swinging the punches, but others did. And, well, you decide for yourself, but it is very clear that the behaviour of the Greater Manchester Police is unacceptable in a first world civilised country. But it's, of course, acceptable in a rampant corporatist state. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Okay, this is the afternoon of Thursday, 13th of March. The walk down. Hope it's a little calmer than the aggression of the walk in.
Protecting the elderly. Got a wheelchair here. We're protecting the elderly. And the person in the wheelchair. Thank you.
Let's sit back to the empty trucks. Get us there.
There we go.
You were walking. What was wrong with that? We didn't. People were walking. Was that just too slow for you now? Oh my god. Keep walking. This is a public footpath. What's the speed limit? Keep moving. Inspector, what's the speed limit then? Officers, keep moving. What's the speed limit?
We haven't stopped moving.
Keep moving! Keep moving forwards! What's the speed limit? Take this pace backwards.
It amazes me the depth of your patience.
Officers, keep moving forwards! There's no speed limit. Keep moving forwards! Thank you very much. The point is, that is the point though, isn't it? Because you keep walking, thank you. Keep moving forwards! Keep moving forwards!
The lady is walking as fast as everybody else.
Keep moving! Wow.
She's walking as fast as everybody else is.
Keep moving. Keep moving. Thank you. Keep moving. That's brilliant. Thank you. Keep moving. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're pushing people and speeding people.
Keep
this line moving! Keep this line moving!
Move on, Ian. Keep moving. Keep moving.
Fucking animals!
Look at the face! Look at the face on it! Look at the face! Completely lost it! Completely lost it!
Keep moving.
Get your hands off me! Get your hands off me! Get your hands off me!
Keep moving. Keep moving.
Get your hands off me!
Keep moving.
Your officer lost it! Completely lost it!
Well, keep moving, folks. Keep walking. Keep moving, please.
This is our martial artist. 14352.
You will pay for this. For your crimes. Animals! Animals!
Watch your feet.
Come on, keep moving forward, please!
Your hands out my back!
You've not got my hand on your back. Come on, keep going!
They're filling from this side! Keep the pace moving!
Come on, move forward,
Keep
please!
a gap between yourself and the officers! Look at the facial expressions here. Pure aggression. Pure arrogance, pure aggression. Out of control, testosterone policing. It's an embarrassment to be British.
Please, thank you.
Keep moving. 14010.
Keep moving forward, please.
Keep moving. Every one of these officers will be culpable.
Known forever.
Keep moving forward, please.
You need to speed up, alright?
Moving forward, please.
Absolutely disgusting.
Keep a gap between us and yourself, please.
Disgusting.
Keep moving forward, please.
Disgusting.
11123. Needs to lay off the steroids. Did you get that? I got it. Nothing wants your message! Look, it's an old lady.
Pushing me.
Keep moving forward, please.
They're pushing me so miles away. I mean, they're knocking you down. They're pushing me.
Keep walking, keep moving.
Move to the side, then.
Yourself. If you walk that way, you're not going to fall over, are you? If I fall over, you'll be real, mate. Mind your footing again. Still fell over again. Only looking out for yourself. Keep the face up, please.
Share it on the internet, so it's getting insulted.
Pathetic.
Ouch! Keep the space up, thank you. Thank you.
You are causing chaos on purpose. You are out. You are filth. I want to believe this could happen in the UK.
Just move forward a bit, please. Keep
This is
going.
no longer a democracy.
Right, turn round and walk the other way, mate.
You okay, Anne?
Just survived, yes, thank you. What behaviour?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, I've been reading about it, apart from the times I've seen it myself, but it still is hard to believe.
It's reframing. It's a total reconditioning of the mindset.
Yes.
Off the road, please.
Off the road, please.
Thank you.
Watch yourself. Watch yourself, Wubby.
Whatever the cost, we will fight against this industry. No fear! Danger to our children. It is a danger to the environment, and you are all facilitating it.
No fracking!
What are you doing? Have you done your research?
You need to research.
Do you know what you're allowing to happen on this lot?
You've got mum, you've got family. You need to research the fucking shit you're enforcing. That's fine. They just ruled it recently.
I'm telling you, watch your language. It's a bit of advice, that's all it is. Yeah, cheers, pal.
Fall guys. No, you don't even know what you're enforcing, sir. You need to research this shit that they do. We've got to drink water to live. Do you know what I mean? You can't drink money. The Nazis did it for money. Research who you're working for. Get another job, mate. There's jobs out there. You're working for satanic people.
Now this one, you all need to go on your own walk down here.
I got private army. I got private army. I got private army. I got private army. Who's that coming for me? It's the motherfucking GMP. Who's that coming for you? It's the motherfucking GMP. Who's that coming for me? It's the motherfucking GMP. I said, who's that coming for you? It's the motherfucking GAU. Said GMP. I got private army. 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 Just put your jacket and you just up in your tie. Try to deny the human rights. Dress up in your jacket and you dress up in your hat. Try not to look such a complete twat. Dress up in your jacket and you dress up in your tie. Try to deny the human rights. Dress up in your jacket and you dress up in your hat. Why do you look such a complete twat? Say GMP. I got private army. 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 Who's that looking for me? It's the motherfucking GMP. Who's that looking for you? It's the motherfucking TAU. Who's that coming for me? It's the motherfucking GMP. Who's that coming for you? It's the motherfucking TAU. Who's that coming for me? It's the motherfucking GMPs. And who's that coming for you? Texas version of the TAU. Say GMP. I got private army. GMP. I got private army.
Sir Constabulary. David, got energy private army. Sir Constabulary. Got energy private army. We take GMP. I got private army. GMP. I got private army. GMP. I got private army. GMP. I got private army.
Steve, what transpired?
A guy was throwing punches, one of the officers, he dropped his hat on the floor.
Yeah.
He was randomly throwing punches at everybody.
Yeah, I know. I got his facial expression.
Yeah, you got him was walking past.
Fuck yeah.
It's definitely him. So I want him. I've tried to get photographs.
I got the facial expression. So we'll capture him.
Yeah.
And then your statement.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Fantastic.
I mean, I'm not going to get
16683.
16683. Okay. Yeah, he was out of control. He was the facial expression. He completely lost it.
He went mental.
He did.
He went absolutely mental.
It's 16683. An officer that shouldn't be allowed anywhere near the public.
Run away with it. Shame on you! Shame